You know, it's funny, every single time they mention this character's name, Mako, I always want to say, yeah, I know it's Mako! It's very nice you named a character after him, but it's like, I know that's how it's pronounced. I know it's not Mako, it's just a lot of other people are saying Mako, and that's sort of what I started doing. I just kept doing it. It's just, you know, I have enough people yelling at me about pronunciations of characters' names, and now the show is doing it! What the hell? So, that's not what you want to hear about. You want to hear about episode 2, which is A Leaf in the Wind. And first of all, that is very cool that they name one of the characters after Mako. I'm just going to go back and forth. I don't care. But I've heard it said both ways, so I don't know. I've said Mako for so long, and you know what? The actor I'll call Mako, this character I'll call Mako. There you go. Okay, so you got... we finally see what the opening of the show is like, and I think how they're going to talk about previous episodes, too. I hope they keep that up. It's sort of like this old, like, 30s style film strip, sort of like the news. Last time on The Legend of Korra, we saw that she got in a fight, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I really hope they keep doing that, because that's really funny, and again, it helps give the show a little bit more of a different identity than the previous show. So I like that. I like that it's... Again, it's feeling very comfortable in its world, and it's sort of embracing it, and it's not feeling like, oh, well, we have to do this because Avatar did this. No, it's doing something else. It's moving on, while still also being in this world, while evolving the world. So I like that. I think that's really cool. You got this thing where Korra is trying to learn airbending, and she is just too rambunctious, and she doesn't have the patience, is trying to learn it, but is just finding it very, very difficult, very frustrating, and finds out about this thing, this sort of bending tournament that's going on, this sort of bending fighting, and goes over there, meets these two boys who are, you know, who are competing, doing really well, find out she's the Avatar, and then, of course, one of the guys didn't come through. Oh, what are we gonna do? Let's throw her in there. You know the shtick. And of course, just at the point where she's becoming so frustrated with airbending that she says, I think this is the way I want to go. So, kind of seen this story before, but I think what really helps it out, what saves it in my opinion, it's not a bad episode, but again, you're sort of going, yeah, seen it, but what really saves it, in my opinion, is A, that she uses the techniques that she did learn from the airbending master. I'm blanking on his name. Again, not gonna try it. But that she learned from him in the fight. And I like that. And it worked very naturally. You know, she has to dodge, and you see what that's for, and you see they're all really shocked that they can't get her, and I like that she learns that, hey, the brute force isn't always the way to do it. But it comes at a right point, because she's just seeing everything else she's trying is not working, so it's sort of this, okay, well, try this, and that works. So I like that. That felt very fluent. That felt very, just very, very flowing, I mean. It just felt very natural to go into that. And I like the fact that both her and the teacher acknowledge their faults, because, again, I think a lot of shows would really drag this out and would just have it where he doesn't like her for a bit, she doesn't like him, and they'll carry over for about 2-3 episodes or something like that at least, and then they come to this understanding, oh, maybe I've been kind of a jerk. And they come to it at the very end, and I like that. They both acknowledge that they've screwed up, and I like the fact they acknowledge the teacher has sort of been screwing up too, that he has not been keeping his patience as well. And that matches the character. This seems to be a guy who means well, but is sort of takes what he does very seriously, and is not used to having people really talk back to him. I mean, it's obvious he holds this to a great art and doesn't have a phenomenal sense of humor about it, but it's not harsh or mean either. So it sort of makes sense that she would sort of walk all over him, and he would just, you know, that sort of do that thing. So I really like that. I felt those are the two elements that pulled this through okay, and made it a decent episode. I've heard people talk, this is like the one thing I've heard about this show before going in. Of course, a lot, and from what I heard, people are kind of split on. People are either like, hey, I'm glad they're doing something different, or others are like, that's not Avatar. It's not like I can just watch Avatar again. But a lot of people are saying that this Korra character is a little too much of a hothead. She's a little too closed off and brutish and so forth. The reason I think, so far, I think it works is because, A, when she makes a mistake, she comes around to it very quickly, and that's good. Because there were points here where I'm just like, oh, come on, girl, come on, will you open your eyes and stuff? And she does, and she does in a way that sort of makes sense. Like I said, using the moves and seeing that it works, that was very effective. That was a very smart way of doing it. But here's the other thing I'm sort of realizing, especially in this one where she's having a real hard time getting airbending, and I like that it's airbending and not firebending, because that would have been the easy route to go again. They would have had the opposites, because that was the hardest with Aang, was like earth. Well, that's the opposite of air. Well, now you have water. Opposite of that would be fire, and they do air. I like that, because it's not necessarily the power, it's the attitude this time. And the attitude of the Water Tribe is not usually like her. She's a little different, because she's kind of a blowhard, and she's full of herself and such. So I like that the philosophies are what is not gelling here, and why it's so difficult for her. So I think that's cool. I like they didn't go the obvious route with firebending. But what I realize I enjoy about this character, and why I think this is a good route to take with the character, is because when you see her during the airbending sessions, you know, with the meditating and trying to be calm and trying to be relaxed, and her just not able to do it. I mean, she's just so angsty and so rambunctious, and wants to go do stuff, and wants to listen to the radio, and wants to get into the fights, and wants to talk about things, and blah blah blah. Does this sound like any generation or couple of generations you might be familiar with? It's us! It's us, and it's the generation right after us, the millennials, or whatever they're called. Because, and yeah, you could always say like, oh, that's any generation, those lousy kids, yeah, but I think there is something to the fact that the more technologically advanced we get, the more stuff is made easier for us, and because of that, sort of the more sheltered we become, and more spoiled and selfish. And now, with that said, there's many great things that come from that too, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, there is this great impatience, because everything is handed to us in a well, there's always something to entertain us now. There's nowhere you can go where there isn't something to entertain you. There's ads everywhere. There's computers everywhere. There's internet everywhere. If I get bored, I'm on this boat too. If I get bored waiting in line somewhere, iPhone, go online, see what's going on, check the website. I'm part of it too, so I'm not going to act like, oh, you lousy kids. I'm totally in this as well. You know, the social media and so on and so forth. So I think this is actually a really good reflection of a lot of people right now, especially a lot of younger people. You know, our generation sort of grew up with this being discovered, the internet. I mean, the internet is really what changed everything. But the generation after us, the millennials, they're growing up just with this in their world. You know, so they've never known a time without this. And so much of that is losing this sense of quiet and this sense of self. And in some respects, the internet can help with a lot of self, because everything is about ourselves, you know, Facebook and Twitter, look what I did today, I did this, I did that, me, which in many respects is good. You can discover things about yourself and you can share things with yourself, but there's never that sense of being alone and quiet. And as much as we try to distract ourselves and shove entertainment and pictures and whatever in front of us, you're gonna have those moments where all you're gonna have is yourself, and you can't trick anyone but yourself. The only person you have to trick is yourself, and why would you want to trick yourself? So there's that sense of just being comfortable with yourself, and I think it's very obvious that Korra is not entirely comfortable with herself. She is impatient, and she is anxious, and even though she sort of talks and acts like a blowhard, she knows she hasn't hit that area of failure yet that she really needs to confront, that I'm sure she's gonna have to confront. So I like this character because of that. I think it's actually a really good representation of young folk today and our generation, and especially in a city that is so technologically advanced now. It seems like they've made all these huge improvements, and now you have this this teacher who obviously is a generation that was, you know, raised by Aang, the Avatar, who, you know, was raised among the monks and knows all about quiet and peace, is very playful and everything, but also is very, very quiet and knows himself and knows inner peace and so forth. But there wasn't as many distractions. There are distractions, but not as many. And our distractions nowadays are just made so accessible to us, and you can get them anywhere. So I like this. I like this route that they're taking, because a lot of people, I saw a lot of people too, like, oh, I'm so sorry, you gotta watch Korra. Oh, she's such a... But I don't know. It works for me because I see this going on with so many people right now. So many people that just cannot get this idea of quiet and silence and how important it is, and how as much as they try to run away from it, it will catch up with them. And it's important to be ready when it does, or even welcome it, instead of being so frightened by it like so many people are. So, yeah, I enjoy this character for that. Maybe reading too deep into it, I don't know, but that's what I see in it when I watch this character. And when I watch this world, that's one of the reasons I really like this, is that this world's so technologically advanced, and that it is almost like, you know, sort of a 40s style city. So, yeah, I like the direction it's going. It is very different, and again, maybe the one thing I do sort of miss from Avatar so far is episode 2, but the one thing the two things I miss from Avatar, one is the colors, and I do sort of miss the humor a little bit more from Avatar, which is so funny. When that shit started off, I was like, the humor's, and then it gets so good. So, yeah, this seems like the story is a little bit more relatable to kids, but the delivery of it is a little bit more adult, like I said, and not quite as many. I mean, most of the characters are drawn as, like, adults. They don't have the huge, gigantic eyes like the little kids do, as you normally give kids big eyes in drawings anyway. So, I'm liking it so far. I'm curious to see where it's gonna go, and, yeah, I'll just see where it goes. Take care.